It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. These are facts. So you better open your eyes, your mind, and wake the fuck up.
They do it. So, and by the way, I'll give them benefit. Yeah, I'm sure there's some that are ignorant to that. There's plenty that aren't, because there's no other solution. There's no other answer to why they push them.
There's no other answer, and I think what magnifies your point is the fact that a movie called Sound of Freedom, based on a true story, it's totally, in terms of politics, vanilla. Yeah. There's no politics. There's no QAnon.
This should be 100% issue, right? But it's not.
Anyone who fights that is hiding something else, and the only thing left that we can see they're hiding is all of this stuff. Is all this agenda around children, enslaving them in the name of liberating them. That's what they're doing, and we're exposing it.
So how do these groups, work in practice? You say that even the U.S. now is becoming a destination, not just for sort of the material, but for actual kids.
Right.
How does that happen in the United States? Like, how do these networks exist? How do they not get caught? I mean, how do they keep that stuff under wraps that they could perform, the most horrific acts known to man, I guess, and feel comfortable?
There are kids in New York City, okay, that Homeland Security, my colleagues have worked, and I've assisted on cases. These kids show up, they get trafficked in. I mean, they show up, and there's appointments made, and they're taken in 10 to 12, up to 20 times within a 24-hour cycle. They're delivered to a hotel, to a home, to a brothel, to an apartment, whatever, and they're raped. It's like 30 minutes out, and this is their life. And to answer your question, how are we not catching more of these? Because it's not been a priority yet. The previous administration tried to make it a priority, and then the next one has not. There's about 5 anti-drug agents, this is anecdotally speaking, but about 5 anti-drug agents to every 1 anti-child trafficking agent. That needs to flip. And the only way to flip it is make it a priority. And the only way to make it a priority, I think, is to wake up the people, and I hope Sound of Freedom is that tool.
Well, listen, I think it's doing that, certainly from the right. Again, even a guy like me who's known you for years now, and I heard the stories, like, until you actually see it, you don't get it. We talk about the policies, we'll be like, this has to be this, but until you actually hear those stories, I guess if you're just a decent person, you can't even imagine that there's this level of evil in the world. But I guess what you're saying is that level of evil exists, and it exists at a much higher and more prolific rate than we could have ever fathomed.
And I do get that. I mean, I was shocked beyond anything I could imagine. The first case I did in 2002, I sat down and they showed, and I was doing this case. I watched this video of a guy we just had a warrant on. We're taking his material, and 7, 5, 4-year-old little boys that look like my kids, okay, and they're being raped in this video. First thing I ever saw. I fell to my knees. I vomited. I jumped in my car, picked my kids up, checked them out of school. I can still see. I remember writing dentist appointment. I just got them out of there. I came home and sobbed, and I just hugged them. And I said to myself, I said to my wife, there's no way this is real. So I do get it. I get that decent people can't comprehend it, so it's easier just to pretend it's not happening. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I think there's been about 6 million people who've showed up in the last 12 days to watch Sound of Freedom, and they're seeing it, and they're willing to see it. And that's what's going to change everything now.
Oh, well, no, I think that's huge. And I mean, I'm seeing, some of woke corporate media, putting up big money movies, and they're losing to Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Now they're pushing a woke agenda that, many would accuse of being, let's call it groomer-like, with their corporate policies and stuff like that. So I love, it's sort of like, Top Gun, right? Well, it was the one pro-America movie of the year, and it beat everything because that spirit actually still exists in America, so it's there, even if woke corporate is trying to beat it out of us, even if the mainstream media and big tech are trying to beat, that decency, that the nature of just America, that patriotism, it's under attack daily.
Right.
There's a consequence to being a conservative. I'm not saying you are or aren't, but you saw that something that, again, at any other time in history, you say, oh, this is a 100% issue, which doesn't exist, in politics. Like, we should protect children like this. And it became controversial.
Right. Well, I think even Piers Morgan and these guys who we thought were Bill Maher, they're on our side. They're going, what? Even they're being honest now. Like, what happened? What is going on? Yeah. But the one thing I always believed over the last, since 2016 on, that there has to be the silent majority.
Yeah.
And they're coming out now. I think they're coming out because the crazy ones are loud. But the sound ones who love virtue and see things clear, they're coming out now. Yeah. I think I don't want to be overly optimistic or presumptuous, but I feel like Sound of Freedom is doing something.
Oh, I think without question. I mean, and you can't avoid it. Maybe some of the hate's actually good because you get someone in the middle, be like, well, let me see.
I think it's great.
Call
me QAnon